This episode is sponsored by me, your favorite witch, Sadie. Thank you for tuning in to the Rebel Witch Show. Make sure you're following me. I am Sadie Olson on all social media and at Rebel Witch Show. If you want to keep up with podcast clips, you can subscribe on YouTube if you like video. And I have something very exciting to share with you today. All about your glow up, your abundance alchemy glow up. Tell me if this is you, okay? Every time you sit down to start scheming towards a juicy dream of yours, you get so overwhelmed trying to perfect every detail possible to make sure you get it right. You feel like you have to get it right the first time. You think you have to be in total control in order to succeed, or you'll be judged and ridiculed if you fail. But you're stuck obsessing over so much shit you could never control that you're never properly starting to begin with. You're not even giving yourself a real chance to succeed at manifesting this goal. Can I tell you about your glow up after abundance alchemy? Okay, you feel at home following your intuition even when it feels scary. You know, following your dreams also means stepping into the energy of surrender and not. No more obsessing over what you cannot control. You've ditched it. You're over it. You've stepped out of your waiting for the right time and perfectionist era, and you're ready to show up differently. You think, oh my God, my success is inevitable. And that so-called failure, the challenges, the setbacks that do pop up on occasion, those are just catalysts for my growth. Ooh, that feels good. Or maybe this is you before. You know your intuition is trying to lead you, but you cannot escape the vibe of now is just not the right time. Your mind is telling you these stories. No. When this and that is taken care of, then I'll prioritize this. Or the worst excuse of all, I'm just a perfectionist. So once I get this right, then most days your mind is full of these thoughts that are weighing and calculating and timing things out and debating all your possible options. And the lack of clarity and direction in your life reflects your unwillingness to get real with yourself. But after your abundance alchemy glow up, wait, is it really this simple? This is you, after the chitter chatter begins to quiet and you start to question yourself less and less. Even when things don't go according to plan, you now have a system. You know how to zoom in on your subconscious mind because you know that's the source of all your motherfucking problems. And you know how to navigate this and nurture your subconscious mind. And you're able to zoom out to see the bigger picture and how this is all working out in your favor. You're able to navigate the ups and downs, to process, to move through. You feel yourself living in alignment even when it looks like you've taken steps backwards. Oh, you're so empowered. Maybe this is you. Before, you listen to your intuition. You take inspired action. You're doing everything right. Except, fuck, now you're having a tower moment. And it feels like everything in your life is falling apart. Fuck, you're left thinking this is a sign that it just isn't meant for me. I might as well give up. Oh, but honey, listen. After your abundance alchemy glow up, you are realizing that the universe is removing everything not meant for you to make room for what is. You know how to find the lessons and the empowerment through it all. You know that all of this is helping you find deeper clarity through these seasons of life to work with your subconscious mind and literally quantum leap into your next level. hello, magical tools that you're using for a lifetime. You are so powerful. Tell me if this is you. Before, scrolling through Instagram, feeling like you have to keep up with the latest trends, trying to find yourself in all the noise. What's cool? What should I be doing? While you're unintentionally dimming your own light and your uniqueness to, keep up with the Joneses. You don't know what a dream life means to you or what abundance really means to you. You don't know what abundance you want to welcome into your life. And ultimately, the universe cannot co-create with you because it doesn't know what the fuck you want. But after, oh girl, the glow up, the abundance alchemy glow up, you no longer look outside of yourself for what you should have or be or do. You are the only source of your dreams and desires, and you've released attachment to external validation. It just doesn't weigh you down. It doesn't have power over you anymore because you know who the fuck you are, and the universe is screaming, yes, queen! And helping lead you towards even your juiciest, wildest, most unrealistic, impossible dreams. This might be you before. Tell me. Looking, comparisonitis. She has manifested so much because she is such good energy. Or she's so successful. She's making all this magic work for her because she's so disciplined. She's so brave. She's so outgoing. She's so this and that. And I simply do not have that in me. It's just not who I am. I'm just not the kind of person who can fill in the blank. You're left feeling like you're not enough to whatever your dream is. Comparisonitis gets the best of you. But after abundance alchemy, after the glow up, you know how to infuse your unique essence into the way you approach manifestation. And there's simply no question of not enoughness because you have a deep understanding of how to work with your subconscious mind. So even on the worst days, you are empowered to bring yourself back into your magic. And magic does not rely on good energy or vibes or luck at all. It is you, baby. It is your essence. Or this might be you. You show up when the vibes are high. You're showing up with courage and boldness. You're taking action. You're like, yes, this is it. It's all happening. But then the motivation runs out and you come to a screeching halt. You fall off the path. Sometimes it's suddenly, sometimes it fades away. But after abundance alchemy, you know that it's really the way you show up when the vibes, when the motivation runs out, that really determines how you manifest. And you no longer depend on this random motivation to show up. Oh, when the muses bless me with inspiration, then I get to get going. But in between now and then, I'm just chilling. I don't know what to do. No, you know how to use the power of your mind to access the energy and inspiration. You know how to stir this up within yourself. The energy you need to stay consistently aligned with your dreams. It becomes easier and easier to be consistent and be your own source of motivation rather than relying on external factors. If I am speaking to your soul, honey, it is time to join me in abundance alchemy. If you want more magic in your life, you need to work on your mindset. The magic, the root of it, the core of it, it comes from our subconscious mind. So let's spend the next 3 months together doing the simple and easy subconscious reprogramming that's going to give you huge magical results to tap into true abundance. An abundance of love, joy, creativity, inner peace, and cash, money, honey. Mamma mia, it's so good. Let's do it. Go to the show notes. I love you. I'll see you there. Cheers to your abundance and enjoy the episode. Hello and welcome to the second ever episode of the Rebel Witch Show. I'm so excited, and we have our first guest, the one and only Jessica Marr. She is a musician and a mindfulness practitioner, and she has so much to talk to us about. Rebelling against external limitations, rebelling against all the chitter chatter in your ear from your own brain, from other people in your life. I'm so excited to get into it today. So welcome, Jessica.
Well, thank you, Sadie, for having me on. I am super honored to be here, and also to be the first guest is like an honor and a privilege. So thank you, my lovely lady. This is amazing. I did not even realize that. So I'm feeling like, ooh, all the good stuff.
Yeah, well, it's so funny, how the universe works. Like, I had you in mind as someone I wanted to have on with the theme of, rebelling against different things in our life. And then you popped up on, I do my IG lives every Sunday. And I don't know, I haven't noticed your name pop up before, but you popped up the other week. And I was like, oh my God, Jessica, like, I'm about to DM you, like, and it just felt like a sign, like, yeah, have Jessica on first. Like, I had a whole list of people, and I didn't know who was going to be on first or second, third, didn't really matter, but I was like, oh, it's Jessica. Like, she's here.
Oh
I see
my
her
God.
name pop up.
I honestly, that I'm so honored. I'm so happy to hear that. It's like the funny little synchronicities. And what was crazy about it is I normally don't go on to Instagram lives. Like I'll do them sometimes myself, but I don't normally go on Instagram or social media at that time. I just happened to go check something, happened to see her on, and I was like, my girl Sadie, I haven't heard from her in a while. I want to see what she's up to. I know she's living her best life in Bali. And so I go in there, and of course you're like dropping some wisdom, and it was like the stars aligned.
Exactly. Oh my gosh, I love it so much. Okay, so I wanted to tell everybody about how we know each other because it's kind of crazy. So everyone, well, maybe not everyone, but everyone kind of knows my story that I went through my spiritual awakening sort of starting at the end of 2019, and that's when I learned about manifestation because of Manifestation Babe, because I saw a job listing and I applied for it, completely unqualified, none of the skills, didn't get it, of course, but it introduced me to Manifestation Babe, Catherine Zankina, and that's how Jessica and I met, through the Manifestation Babe Academy.
We were we were in an accountability group together, and it was so
Yeah.
funny how we met too, because I remember like there were so many people in taking the program then, and just a ton of people were like, oh, will
Mm-hmm.
you be my accountability group, or who wants to be my accountability partner? And like somehow I just saw you, and I was like, this person, like universe was like, she's,
Light
this
went
is the
on.
vibe. And so I reached out to you, and like we ended up combining forces with like another, like it was like four of us. I know Juliet, and it
Yeah.
was just like it was such a cool like synchronistic experience. And then we ended up having like the best accountability group, and we would have our like
Mm-hmm.
calls, and it would just feel like it was COVID too, remember? So we were like
Yeah.
we couldn't actually meet in person, even though we were all in LA at the time.
Yeah, somehow in this huge Facebook group where we were supposed to find accountability partners, we managed to find a group. We were all in LA, but yeah, it was like the peak of COVID. So it was like, no, not meeting up. But we would have our little like masterminds on Zoom like every week and talk about, oh my gosh, I mean, that feels like yesterday and a million years ago, like life is so different.
That's the perfect way to describe it. It's like it feels like no time at all, and all the
I
time
have
that there
chills.
ever has been. Yes. It's like that's how you know it's been a quantum jump. Like you've had a quantum leap, is because I feel like we have jumped. I mean, based off what I've seen, I can't assume too much, but well, based on what
Yeah.
I know for myself and what I've seen from you, I feel like we've jumped timeline after timeline from that.
I'm literally dizzy right now thinking about it, and I have like crazy chills. I'm like, oh my God, I'm actually having like an existential crisis right now because we helped each other, we supported each other for that. Like,
Yep.
I don't know, like that for me was my first program, my first time learning about that stuff in depth. Like that was my first quantum leap, and like we did that together. Like we're like bonded for life. It's so special.
It was I completely agree. It was special. It was I had taken like some little courses before that, but that was my first like notable change in my life. Like taking that doing that
Yeah.
program, I noticed a big shift. So it was kind of like a first for me too. And I don't know if you experienced it, but like I felt like, oh, my life it got so much better. And then it just, whoo, like, was that? It was just the universe rearranging your
Yes.
life to meet the desired reality. It's like, well, honey, to get from where you are now to where you're gonna be, some stuff's gonna have to change a little bit.
Yeah, I mean that's such a good a good reminder and a good point. And for anyone that maybe is like first, if you're like in your first like quantum leap or your first part of your spiritual awakening, learning about manifestation, trying these things on, like you start with so much like energy and like hope and like it's all up from here. And that, and the thing is, it is, but from like your like human perspective on the soul level, it's all up from here. But from the human perspective, yeah, it feels like you're like tumbling back down the stairs a few times and it gets a little bit
Uh,
easier to pick yourself back up. You have the tools, the know-how, the self-awareness, but oh my gosh, yeah, getting the rug pulled is exactly how it feels.
Absolutely. And what you're describing right now, it reminds me of what I just commented on one of your posts about, like, you shared something about, like, the dichotomy, basically. And
Yeah.
that's kind of what this, I feel like this conscious journey, intentional journey, spirit, whatever you want to call it, it's just, it's such a polarizing experience because you realize, like, in order to experience that like profound joy and peace, you do need to know as a human what it is to feel like sadness and grief and pain and loss. And let me make sure my, also sorry if my connection is not ideal right now, but you have to know exactly what it means to be human, which is ups and downs. You're going to experience the with the healing, like you can be in your deepest healing and experiencing the most profound pain and also the most ecstatic joy and peace. And it's like, how do you explain that? And you think in terms of black and white, like you have to be at peace or you have to be in pain. And it's like, no, actually they can simultaneously exist, they can coexist, and often do, in if you're really showing up.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's that, yeah, like the law of polarity and that like
Mm.
our, our universe exists on a spectrum. And so, you know, I think it's easy to wrap our head around like, it's like success and failure. One does not exist without the other. Like, oh yeah, like I can't be successful if there's not the possibility of failure. Or literally like a relationship, there's being alone or there's being in a partnership, right? Like there's these opposites. That's how our world exists. And so, if we want the chance to succeed in something, like you're a musician, you're going after your music career, oh my gosh, I can't wait to get into it. But without there's no opportunity for success if you're not willing to hold space for the possibility of failure. You could stay where you are, you could not make music, you could not share it, you could not put it out into the world, right? There's that polarity, so one does not come without the other. And I think like the acceptance of that for me personally has been so freeing. It's like, oh yeah, that's just the way it is.
Yep. I mean, you're saying it so beautifully. It's like it's like you're speaking my language. Like really, you're
Yes.
totally tapped into like exactly how I also feel. Like I resonate with it so much. And I think like you said, the law of polarity. And when you're starting out small, and I don't mean small as in like you don't know what you're doing, but like you're in the beginning stages of whatever. So people are just terrified of that. They're like, oh, I don't want to be seen like being cringe, or oh my gosh, you posted something like I'm cringe and but I'm me or something about it. And I was like, yes, girl, I'm free. I'm free. That's what it was. I was like, see, she's yet again speaking straight to my soul. But people are so afraid of being seen starting small, and it's like there is no big without the small. Again, the polarity.
Yeah,
Like you don't get to be living that
absolutely.
big life in your heart and your dream, or even if you don't experience, like maybe your dream is something that you identify as small, but it's
Mhm.
still like, oh, I want to live here and with this person and do these things. Well, you still have to start somewhere, and you're not going to
Yeah.
start there and where your ultimate goal and vision is. You're going to have to move towards it. And it is scary to start small, especially I mean, you and I probably know better than a lot. I mean, people watching, I know people watching and listening to your podcast definitely know this, but there can be a lot of hate and criticism and backlash and like, noise. You said noise and the chitter chatter, which totally ties into like the theme of external limitations, but it
Yeah.
can be scary, and you just kind of, it's like, do or die. You got to
Yeah.
you got to give it a go, and not be held down by those external limitations, even though that they can feel so heavy.
I feel that so much. And this goes beautifully into what I'm so excited to talk about is your first of all, Jessica's music, like I feel like so many of your songs are like anthems. Like the power in your voice and like the way they just like cheer you on, like they make me feel so amped and so on fire. Like if these Jessica's songs are things you need to add to your like feel good manifestation playlist. They will get you there. They will get you shifting into the energy. And you have a new song that recently came out called Somebody. And I would love for you to speak on the inspiration for writing that. Well, tell us a little bit about the song, maybe share some of the lyrics that, your favorite lyrics, and like give us like the picture of like what inspired you to write the song, because it's so in line with what you were just talking about. And like we're so worried about the external, other people, what they think of us, the boxes we have to fit in. Oh my gosh, like when I first listened to this song, I have chills right now remembering listening to it. Like it is, everyone that's about to listen to it, if you haven't already, like, oh my gosh, like it's gonna speak to your soul. So I'd love to just hear everything about the song.
Oh my gosh, Sadie, thank you. I'm like getting emotional over here. Thank you for seeing me. Thank you for seeing me. And thank you for also just like seeing the message, like, and hearing the message. And I appreciate, I think I don't know if my Wi-Fi, am I a little bit choppy for you right now?
I
Or
think
am I okay?
I think you're good. You were a few minutes ago for just like 10 seconds, and it's been fine since then.
Okay,
I think
perfect.
you're good.
Well, Mercury and all that jazz.
I know. I'm like, great.
Pre-shadow or whatever. But
Yes.
I really appreciate you acknowledging the songs and seeing them for what they are, because that's what they're designed to be. I infuse the energy of empowerment, of relatability, of upliftment, just all of that. I literally do a practice where I energetically infuse, like, make people feel uplifted, make people feel inspired, make people feel seen, and do that like little kind of energetic process and really incorporate it in there. So you saying that they are like anthems, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, this is the goal. So thank you for acknowledging that, and I'm
Yes.
so happy you liked Somebody. It is pretty sassy and feisty, because it just was like
I
one of
love
those
it.
moments. Yeah, we were like, okay, we got to do some calling out here. And I was so tired in LA when I was living in LA, constantly hearing people talk about Forbes 30 and under 30. And that's great. Like, I champion anyone who has accomplished something or achieved something at any age. And
Yeah.
so many people put this unnecessary pressure on doing things before age 30. I don't know if you felt that. Like, oh, by
Oh
30, you're
yeah.
supposed to.
I mean, I remember going to some, I don't know, some parties in LA, like my ex, I don't know, we would go to like things with, lots of people in entertainment. He's a comedian, whatever. And, like people would say, oh, like that person was on Forbes 30. Like literally, I don't know, the obsession. Like I heard about the Forbes 30 under 30 all the time too. And and I was like, one thing that was refreshing about leaving LA is that like I don't feel like an old lady anymore. Like, oh, my phone says reconnecting. I'm gonna wait. Okay. I don't feel like an old
Okay.
lady anymore. Like I felt like there was an obsession with youth, an obsession with like yeah, I'm so happy for all of the kids that are 18 years old and making millions on TikTok. And also, I need to remove myself from that a little bit if it's going to make me feel bad rather than inspired that I can do the same.
Yep. Yep. 100%. And that's like, you just hit the nail on the head. It's like this weird obsession with youth culture, especially in LA. Like you said, you feel bad. And I just
Yeah.
remember, oh, I just lost my
Lost
light.
light. It's Mercury retrograde. We're embracing it. It's part of the
Oh my
fun.
goodness.
We're rebelling
Mercury is,
against having perfect podcasts. That's just not what we do here.
Yeah, we rebel against technology always working as it's supposed to. But oh my goodness. Well, at least a podcast, it's you're listening more. So there we go. Let there
Yeah.
be light. It's like a special emphasis on what I'm about to say. And what's funny is I was about to kind of do a bit of a mic drop, so I feel like this is emphasizing it, but particularly so with former partner and their family emphasizing Forbes 30 under 30 in a way where it's like, I'm happy for you, that's great. And also feeling like I was getting old. Like if I didn't reach Forbes 30 under 30, I'm not saying they all said that or anything like that. I'm just saying there was a huge like appreciation and acknowledgement of it. Like you said, in LA is just a thing, or even in California in general.
Yeah.
But I was just so frustrated with feeling like, okay, I'm 28. Okay, I'm 29. I'm like, oh my God, my time's running out because I'm not
Yeah.
gonna make it into Forbes 30 under 30. And I literally had someone tell me it will be harder for you to make it as an artist if you don't do that. Like it is a great indication of you being successful. And I'm like, yeah, and you don't need that to be successful at
I
all.
I couldn't name one musician that like I'm like aware of that they were on that list that are maybe they were. I don't know. Maybe
I know of
of
one,
someone
and I
right now. I'm like
actually
maybe they were, but I don't know that they were. I don't know.
I know of one that I actually absolutely love and adore her, Madame Gandhi. She's like the most intentional artist ever, and she's super. I've seen her live too, and like been to a panel with her. She's just like a very conscious creator. And I know she was in Forbes 30 under 30, but there are also so many artists that weren't in it, and also like just the idea of like you're like in your prime. I remember watching Miss Americana, the Taylor Swift documentary. Taylor Swift, whatever, love her, hate her, the truth is she grew up in the entertainment industry, and she was talking about how she's trying to do all these things and make this name for her because she had this major fear that her time was up after 29. Like she was trying to do all these things by age
Yeah.
29 because she felt like once she hit 30 she was going to be obsolete in the industry. It's like, she didn't, I don't know if cursing is allowed here or anything like that, but,
Oh yeah, no, it is.
okay. I was
I've
like, she didn't just pull that straight out of her ass. Like, that was
yeah.
there for a reason. Like, people have given her the impression that once you turn 30, so that was a big thing for me. And also, like, feeling like you need to be married and have kids. Like, I have friends who are married with kids, by age 30, before age 30, and it's beautiful for them. That's awesome,
Yeah.
but it's not for everyone. Like, and I feel like society would have you believe like you need to be on the trajectory to own your home, be married, be starting a family, have a stable job by age 30, and this is when you kind of
Mhm.
like give up on your dreams. And I
Yeah.
was just so tired of that. And I was also being told things like, you need to sound sexier, you need to show more skin. If you were a little bit more revealing, you'd make more money. And like, sometimes some of the things you do, like when you're being goofy or like when you talk about playing music with your family, it's like a little hokey. And I was just like, the last thing I want to hear. And I was just kind of like, I just don't need somebody telling me I gotta be somebody. And then I was like, oh, there's a song. So I started writing it and then developed a full song. And I know you mentioned sharing some of the lyrics. I think my favorite lyric that people might miss in it, so thank you for giving me the platform
Yeah.
and opportunity to speak on it, is a canvas that has nothing on it can be painted the way you want it.
Oh,
And that's in reference to why I personally believe the media is so obsessed with youth culture, with getting young idols, like young women in particular, in their teens. Because what do you have with a young teenage woman? Is usually someone who, on average, not everybody, but is a little bit more easily influenced than a woman
yeah.
who's
Oh
further
wow.
established in her self-discovery journey.
Oh my gosh, I
So,
have chills. That's true. It's somebody when you find somebody young, like I didn't know who I was until my Saturn return in my late 20s. That's when I figured it out. So it makes sense. Like that's the cutoff because once a woman's in her 30s, she knows who she is. She's not going to compromise it. She's got values. She's got a sense of self. And so it's like, oh, we don't want to work with you because we can't make you whoever we decide you are. Like,
Right.
my mind is blown right now. I never
Yep.
really put that connection together, but oh my God, yeah, it's like we got to get them in young so that we can mold them into the person that, you know, we decide is going to be successful. Like this is the only way to do it.
Absolutely.
Wow.
And I think I'm just going to keep chatting here and we'll let there be light will happen again.
There's such bright sun in mine right now. I can barely even see my phone screen. So I was like, oh, the light went out again. I can't really see.
It is evening here. So it is nice and
it's
there we go.
Nice 8:30 a.m. here.
Oh, bright and early. Oh my gosh. That is so funny. Yeah, I think Mercury is just working with us. I feel like it's a little bit of like a universal nod. They're like snapping with us with the lights flashing.
Yes,
like yes, girls.
Yes, here.
Love it. But yeah, that's the thing is with getting young, really young women in. And this is not to knock young women. This is to say, like, I know, like you said, you didn't know yourself until your Saturn return. I think about myself when I was 16, 17, 18, the age that they're really finding and grooming these young women who then become really famous in their 20s, but they're still like, they've been sought after and groomed for these roles. It's like, I think about myself then, oh yeah, I would have bought into that. I would have been like, yeah, what do you want me to do? Like, oh yeah, I'll perform at the Grammys. I'll be in the Billboard top, 10, like, just tell me. And now I'm like, you can't get away with shit with me. Now I'm like, I am who I am. It is what it is. I will definitely work with you and we can collaborate, but you are not going to control me, which you can do with people when they're younger. And I think that's a big reason why there's such a push to have young people in the forefront is because there's also a young audience and it's so much easier to control. So much easier to control young people because they're still learning and experiencing and growing.
Yeah, and we crave being like told who we are. I think in a way, I think of me younger and I'm just like, can somebody just tell me the answer? Can somebody tell me what my purpose is? Can somebody tell me what I'm here for? We crave that so much. So if someone were to come to me and be like, baby, you're a pop star, I would have been like, fuck yeah. I mean, if someone comes to me right now and says, baby, you're a pop star, I might be fuck yeah too. But there's some caveats of, not compromising who I am, right? But like, you're like, oh, that's who I am. Thank you for seeing me. Thank you for telling me. I had no idea. Like, it's such the teenage into the 20s is such a weird portal of time where you're like, you're not an adult yet, but you're not a kid and you're trying to figure out like, who you are, what you're doing. You have all these big decisions to make. You think that like you have to, pick a major in college that's going to be with you the rest of your life and that's what you're going to do. There's all of these like ultimatums and things incoming and your brain isn't even fully formed yet.
That's what I was going to say. Another bit is like your brain is not fully developed until age 30. So there's a reason why a lot of women like claim to come online or feel like, oh, I finally know myself. But, and I'm sure this happens with men too, but I just kind of have more of these conversations with women, I feel. But,
same.
Yeah.
We love the men too. They're probably on a similar journey, but.
And you guys be out there being kings and living your life. We love it. We're on our queen journey over here. But I just know that a lot of women do say they feel like they come online at age 30. And I think of some of that is experience. Some of that is just you've lived longer. You have more knowledge and experience. But some of it is because of what's happening biologically. And so you just know it is easier to control and manipulate somebody and to get them into that position where it's like, oh, well, start here. You can be a pop star if you do this and that, or this is how, you should act and behave and dress. And then when they do that, thinking, well, maybe later I can be myself.
Yeah.
I'm a big believer that the way you start something is a determining factor of the way it will continue to be and sustain.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, and I think there's, if you think about somebody who was total, like, take Britney Spears. Like, once she started growing up and wanting to be her own person, they were like, well, she's crazy, she's this, she's that, we have to, and they figured out a way to like imprison her, literally. Like, that's a perfect example of someone brought into the industry super young. This is who you are. Oh, we're going to decide who you are, the sexy young girl, but also we're going to demonize you for that. We're gonna say, how dare you show your midriff? How dare you're supposed to be a role model for young women. She's like, I didn't ask for that. I'm just out here like dancing and having fun. And she started getting older, and it was just like, oh, Britney's crazy. Oh, Britney's this, Britney's that. We have to like control her. Like it's just sometimes it can feel like you can't win as a woman, and I think that's what I want to help people rebel against. I want to have these conversations because it's like, what outside of yourself, coming back to the external limitations, like what outside of yourself is determining a way that you're not showing up as yourself? Yep. And I'm curious, yep. Like, I'm sure writing this song was super therapeutic, but besides listening to this song and making it your anthem, like what advice would you give to someone in their day-to-day life that feels like they're really held back by what other people think, or other, if you have other examples of external limitations that maybe you've previously got stuck on, or I know you're a mindfulness practitioner, maybe you hear a lot in your community.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I could probably riff on this with you. I'm sure we could both get on soapboxes about this forever.
Yes.
But and like with full humility, and I think the best healers are people who are still presently like healing every day. It's an ongoing journey.
Yeah.
So,
oh my gosh. Forever and ever.
Yeah. So we're still healing over here, and we'll continue to do so. But yeah, we're in it with you, truly. And so I definitely have been coming up against this recently with like kind of different timelines that people have, or expectations of they think when you're supposed to do something. And so what I keep practicing with myself is reminding myself I am not responsible for anyone else's emotions. And you have to, you cannot control what other people think or feel or do. You can obviously show up with compassion and have communication and collaboration. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, you're the only one that you will live and breathe and die with for your entire life. You're the one you're born with and you die with. That's it. It's you every day. So I like to remember that quote, like, oh, we got the thumbs up with the new iPhone. It'll do like the thumbs up, or like there's balloons. I don't know if you can see them. The balloons. We're celebrating. Yes. Oh my gosh. And I think if you do
this podcast.
And then you guys send some hearts and stuff.
Oh my god, I'm so entertained. I'm wildly entertained right now.
I was on a call with my therapist today, sidebar, and I did a thumbs up, and she was, and I didn't even think like it would, and I go, oh my gosh, did you see that? And she goes, yeah, the new freaking iPhone update. She goes, you can't imagine sometimes people are sharing some very deep stuff, and the camera picks it up as like a peace sign or a thumb, and then all of a sudden, balloons! And she's like, that is a real test to my strength right there.
Every drama needs a little like what do they call it? Like comedic breaks once in a while.
Oh my gosh.
So
yeah. It's so, I mean,
oh my God.
I feel for her. I'm like, wow, if that happened, I'd be like, oh, I would take me out of it a little bit and like reroute. Okay, coming back. Yes, childhood trauma again. Mm-hmm. We're coming back.
Balloons are going. Oh no.
Be like, and I never felt love.
Oh my God, that's so funny.
What I do remind myself of that, iPhone apparently gave me the thumbs up and approves, is that I'm not responsible for anyone's emotions. And it is my life. It's just kind of giving yourselves those little check-ins and reminders. Whenever you feel pressure, it's so awesome. And I say this with full humility because your girlfriend did this today. But when you feel pressure, it's great to just stop for a second and ask yourself, where is this coming from? because oftentimes it's from external limitations. It's not really your own voice or your own beliefs or your own, thought process. It's something that you've kind of experienced or felt put on you along the way. And just kind of honestly, and I know everybody listening to your podcast is open to this, but like cord cutting and Ho'oponopono, I'm telling you, once you've identified a pressure and you're realizing like, oh my gosh, I'm totally behaving this way because I feel like I should be doing X, Y, and Z thanks to whomever, a friend, partner, family member, coworker, society in general, you can still do, cord cutting with like systems and organizations. So I think call it out, sit with yourself, check in, identify it, and then do whatever you need to do. If you can just remind yourself, I'm not responsible for anyone else's emotions, that in and of itself, for me personally, will kind of bring me back. In the quote, they say like, you're going to disappoint people in this lifetime, just don't let it be yourself. That quote, like, wow. I'll remind myself, like, what are you going to be disappointed by? Like, what are you going to regret more? And so I know, like, okay, well, even though I'm being told, like, don't do it, don't go for it, whatever, I will regret more not trying.
Yeah.
And so I've got to try. I got to go with my whole heart. That's who I am. And then if you're still feeling the pressure, that's when you can start doing some more energetic work. For those of us listening that are more open to that, which I would say probably everybody here.
Probably everybody, yeah.
Yes, we love that. Oh my gosh. Shout out to all the amazing queens listening. Just do an energetic practice if you're open to it for cord cutting or cleansing, maybe forgiveness, Ho'oponopono. If you don't know what that is, we did that also in MBA. If you remember.
I'll try to remember to drop I have a couple that I go back to on YouTube. I'll try to remember to put one in the show notes for everybody to give a try because it's so simple. And even if you're just listening to it while you're doing something else, if you have an aversion to sitting down for meditation, like it will help, or repeating the mantra to yourself. It's so powerful.
Absolutely. And just like doing whatever you need to do to like protect your own energy, because really it's a way of siphoning your energy into other people or other sources. So that's kind of what I do and what I'm literally in the practice of doing. And it helps. It really does, because it can be easy to get angry at limitations, but ultimately we are the only ones in control of our own lives, of our own effort and attitude. And if you give someone else that power over you, then they will have it. And so it's important to not get too much into the mentality of, oh, like, why is this happening to me? Or, why, like, not necessarily like victim mentality of like, oh, I can't do anything about this, they're doing this to me, and realizing like, what can I do in this moment to reclaim my power? Like, energetic process, the reminders, maybe it's a break from somebody, like just really checking in with yourself and doing what you can to protect your energy, reclaim it, call it back, and remember it's your life and you are meant to live it.
Okay, my phone just overheated because the sun is like beating down on me. I literally had to go put my phone in the freezer for like 1 minute, and then it and I couldn't like message you because
it was in the freezer.
I was like, oh my god. Okay, we're back. I came to the shade so that doesn't happen again. It's, Mercury retrograde. We love it. Okay, I'm so sorry about that. I was just
thinking that. I was like, it is the retrogradiest retrograde right now. Like, technology is doing the thing.
Oh my god, but I moved. I'm in the shade. It should be fine. We're back. Okay, so we were talking about ways to rebel against these things, really. I loved all of your advice. I know that my listeners, shout out, they're like, oh yeah, duh, cord cutting, duh, Ho'oponopono. They probably heard of a lot of these things before. And I think that like while you were talking, I was like, yeah, like so much of a spiritual journey is just like calling yourself out on your own bullshit, right? And like, I think it's so important to remember that a lot, like everything, all of our limiting beliefs, all of the ways in which we get stuck on things we can't control, society, expectations, the way a family member speaks to us, all of these things, like they're not our fault, but they are our responsibility. Like that's my favorite reminder is like, this is not my fault. I picked up this belief from somewhere, from my childhood. It's not my fault that somebody treated me poorly, that somebody cheated on me, that somebody did this. It's not my fault, but it is my responsibility to heal from this, to forgive this, to free myself from, in whatever way this is causing me to feel smaller, to feel less worthy, or to feel, make it feel harder to like love myself, right? And so everything you were saying, I was just like, yeah, like it's not our fault. It's not our fault that society expects these absurd things from us. It's not our fault that there's a set of rules that define what success is, like Forbes 30 under 30, or having a house and kids by the time you're 30, or whatever it is. But it's our responsibility to rebel against that. If that's what we feel called to do, it's our responsibility to, heal the parts of us that are hiding and staying small. And the parts of us that hurt when, like someone says something to us that feels personal, I was thinking how you said like somebody told you how it was like hokey to play music with your family. And I was like, to me, the word hokey, like, I love that. That feels like fun. That feels authentic. Like, I would love, like, I mean, I love your music, but like, if I heard somebody else describe themselves as like a hokey type musician or whatever, I'd be like, fuck yeah, like that sounds just so wholesome, and like I want to be a part of that. Like and it's like we can take things different ways, and it's always our responsibility to find like the way to empower ourselves. We can't control what other people say to us, think of us, but we can control like what we make of those situations.
Absolutely. 100%. And it's so funny you're talking about this because this is something I've been like, I've been in this space a lot recently of discussing this. And it's like, that might shout out to my therapist again. She was talking about, you really can only control two things, and it's your effort and your attitude. And everything else, it's just like you got to let go of the control because you don't have any over that, but you can absolutely control your effort and your attitude. And people really don't give those enough credit because that pretty much determines everything in your life. Like the tiny bit that you can control, it determines everything else. And I agree with you. It's like in the healing phase, you can oftentimes identify maybe where wounds have come from, but it's not about like blaming or shaming or even going deeper into that like poor me phase. It's like you can totally acknowledge like that sucked. Like, oh my God, that was really hard. That was uncool. It is, I mean, feeling your feelings because you don't want to sweep them under the rug because they're just going to bottle up and come pouring and spilling out at you later in other ways or manifest into lessons. That could be people or situations or but
We've all had
definitely yeah. So when you identify your wounds or what at any time, it's so important to feel your feelings, and it's okay like to be angry or sad or whatever, but the point is not to stay there and to realize like you want to move forward and like you said to free yourself. And I think it is important to work towards forgiveness. I mean, sometimes, and I've been on this journey too. Like sometimes you're not ready to forgive, honestly. Sometimes you're not there yet. Like, and that's okay, but you can set the intention that you're working towards that. And that really helps me personally a lot to be like, universe, God, source, angels, whatever floats your boat, guide me to have forgiveness in my heart. Like help me get closer to that. Help me get, and that's when you kind of reclaim, like you said, your power.
Yeah, I think, and I remember learning this from Catherine for Manifestation Babe. With anything, it's like if you cannot get your energy behind an affirmation, an intention, behind forgiveness, affirming to yourself, I'm willing to believe this is possible for me.
Yeah.
I'm willing to believe. I'm not fully there yet. I'm not fully in the belief that I can forgive this situation or this person. So when I say that, I feel like it's bullshit. And like, if we're
Mm-hmm.
repeating an affirmation to ourselves that feels like bullshit, it's not doing what it's meant to do. We can't get our energy behind it, but that will, okay, I'm willing to believe. I want to believe this. So
Right.
I'm willing, but I'm not quite there yet. And it's like, okay, yeah, like I love what you said, like universe, like I'm willing to believe that this is possible to forgive, but I'm like, can you show me, like, show me a sign that this is possible for me? Show me the way, like put the
Yes.
right mentor, put the right tools, put it in front of me. Let it be known
Yep.
how I get through this. I mean, we have so much power to communicate with the universe and receive that support and that help.
Absolutely. And we get so separated from that easily, like thinking like, and it comes down to like external pressures. Often, if you feel external pressures, you might also find yourself seeking out external validation. So
Mm-hmm.
whenever you feel like things exist outside of you, like your worth or, approval or whatever, then you're going to be more susceptible to external pressures and you're going to keep looking outside of yourself when really it's like you have so much within you. You have that connection, you have that ability. I know some people feel more tapped into their intuition. Some people take longer to decide. And it's, of course, okay to like, you know, to discuss matters with trusted sources. But at the end of the day, it just comes back to remembering like you have to really be the captain of your own ship,
Yeah.
and just remind yourself like it's like such a it's a balancing act really. I mean, I'm a Libra, so we love we got balance here, scales and whatnot. Um,
Yes.
but it's a balancing act, I feel like, because you're so right. Sometimes we can't get it past our subconscious because it feels like bullshit, and other times it's like you are doing things to kind of circumvent it. So it's like part acknowledging of what is and part acting as if. I don't know if you feel that way, but I'm like, there's a constant juggle between
Yeah.
acting as if and acknowledge and like working through what is.
Yeah. Yeah. There is that. And we hear like every manifestation teacher ever, including myself, it's like, well, you just have to act as though it's already done. Right. But when we're working on parts of our life that mean a lot to us, or something like money that like such a source of safety in our lives, and it can be like, how do I act as if my bank account is zero and I'm panicking? How do I act as if how do I act if it's already done, that I have more than enough? Or I'm sure you felt at times in your music career, I felt this in my business, like I feel like I'm failing. Like, how do I act as if I'm successful? Like, I'm looking at, I have to balance between being smart and looking at my numbers, right? And also being in the energy of like, act as if, act as if, act as if there's two people on my Zoom call, but I'm going to show up and act as if there's 300, And so
Yep.
it is a tricky balance. And it's part of, I love the fun trend on TikTok of like being Delulu is the Salulu. And I think bringing an energy of playfulness and fun to things that can get heavy, can get
Mm-hmm.
serious, in our lives helps so much. But I wanted to touch on, because you were talking about external validation, and I know for
Mm-hmm.
me this has been such a sticking point for me. And you're a content creator, you're putting music out into the world, and your mindfulness, and not everyone here is a content creator, but in ways that this applies to your life, like, how do we not get caught up in the metaphorical numbers, so to speak? How do
Oh,
we detach from the external validation? Because I know I go through waves, I go through cycles where I'm like, fine, it's okay. And then I get so fed up with, why does my content not reach anybody? Why are my numbers so low? What am I doing wrong? I feel like when I'm creating, I'm pouring my heart into it. I feel like I'm in my purpose. I feel like I have so much good to share. Why are my numbers better? How do we, what are your tips for, and, in your own journey with sharing your music, and, oh my gosh, I'm a certain age, why am I not farther along? How do we detach ourselves from the external things that are telling us, oh, you're not as far along as you wish you were, or, our brain wants to create a story around, this is a sign to give up, or this is, this, see, it's not working how you thought it would. So, oh well. How do we detach from this external validation that we might be seeking in different ways in each of our lives?
Well, first of all, sister friend, I hear you and I feel you, and it's like I think I feel like if people who are creating content or pursuing anything that's like their dream reality or dream life, if you aren't feeling those things from time to time, then you probably aren't really getting fully out of your comfort zone, because then
Yeah,
you're just
that's
constantly
true.
doing things that are going to affirm you. And if you're doing things that are going to affirm you, you're not going to really grow as much. And so it's kind of like that idea of starting
Yeah.
small. And I really I've had this epiphany, and I mean, catch me on the wrong day and I might be like, I don't know, it just
Oh
steps,
yeah.
okay? Yeah. But I really just have come to the epiphany that it is truly about consistency, like just
Yeah.
continuing to show up, continuing to do it, because really, when you think of the people that inspire you, and they will have a different journey than you have, they will have a different timeline than you have. However, one thing that all of these people who are successful, who are inspiring you or you look up to, they all have in common that they never gave up.
Yep.
And
Mhm.
I think that one message that I have heard a lot of people say is like, and especially in my community and some of the people that I've worked with, like, oh, it's kind of too late for me, or I'm too old. And that's why I shared a post saying, like, it's time to stop saying I'm too old and start saying, think of how many people I'll inspire by proving it can still be done. So it's like,
Yeah.
make it your mission to prove the external limitations or the external validation wrong, that like you can still keep showing up. You can have small numbers, small days, feel like you got no engagement, but the truth is, like, are you happy with the content you're creating? Like, not you, I mean, yes, you, Sadie, but like myself and you in general, like,
Yeah.
are you happy with what you're creating? Is it you? Do you feel like you would show this to someone and be like, yeah, that's me, and like, oh, I'm cute or whatever? If you feel good about it, then that is a fucking win, because that's an authentic expression of yourself. And that is
Yeah.
more than what the general population will ever do, because we have been so silenced and stifled by hate comments, trolls, fear of rejection. Like, it's not just happening at like an evolutionary level. It's not just evolutionary, it's not just the nervous system. It's also being reinforced constantly by society. Like, oh,
Mhm.
you're not good enough, or oh, you're small, or and then when you see people popping off, like one of my best friends, Yadi, Ninja Yadi, she just had a video pop off. She's been popping off like left and right. She's a ninja, so, but she had a video, just a pull up on a rope with a little weight on her, like a dumbbell with, or a barbell with two weights on either side on her feet, and so she's pulling herself up, oh, like weighted pull up. And for whatever reason, all of these trolls felt like the need to come out of the woodwork on this post that went viral. Is it fake? It's fake. Oh, that weight must be styrofoam, or you probably feel pretty good about yourself. I'm like, this woman is a ninja. She's an American Ninja Warrior. She's a mom. Like, she trains. You can just go through her videos and see. And I'm like, and I just didn't want it to discourage her, because I'm like, this is exactly what this is. And I feel in a way, and I know some people might disagree, but that's fine, because I realize sometimes you just got to beat your own drum. I think sometimes it is a bit of a test. Like, are you going to
Mhm.
continue to show up? Are you going to do this? Like, are you going to push through the limitations and of course, take breaks when you need it? Like, sometimes I just need a little social media break, to be honest. But
Yeah.
I really just keep coming back to the fact that, like, if I'm putting content out there that I feel good about, then I cannot make that wrong, because again, all comes full circle. You can only control your effort and your attitude. So
Mhm.
if you're like, like me, or like you, Sadie, I know you've mentioned, like, oh, why isn't this reaching the people that I know it could help and serve? And it's like, I don't know. You can't control that, but you know that you have nothing to lose by continuing to show up, and
Yeah.
everything to gain from it. And so it's
Yes.
just like, I just sometimes I'm like, what this is so morbid, but my little like metric is like, what am I going to regret when I'm dying? Like, like.
I say this all of the time, and I was thinking right before my phone was dying, I was gonna bring this up. Was like and I have like a million planets in the eighth house, which is like death and rebirth. So I don't know if this is why. Maybe you have some too, but
Yeah.
my driving factor is me on my deathbed, and like, what am I gonna think when I look back on my life? And it's not in a like
Yep.
sad way or anything like that. I just like, when I'm, working on something, it feels like it's not working, and I'm like, oh, is it time to give up? Is it time to go, the times where I've been like, is it time to go get a regular job again? These moments that are testing you. And I go to my deathbed, I'm 99 years old, and I think about how I look back on my life, and I think about me going, God, why did I go back to work? I was so close. Like I'll never know, And I think about those times when I'm tested, and I think about her, little old Granny Sadie, and what she's gonna think when she looks back in her life, and she's gonna be like, "Damn, Sadie was badass. She really went for it. She was terrified so much of the time, but she just like she kept following her heart even when it felt it wasn't working, and then it started
Yeah.
working, and then it stopped working, and then it started working again, and it's like."
Yep.
Yeah, like how can you show up in a way where like when you're looking back on your life, you're so proud of yourself for getting out of your comfort zone, for going for it, no matter what anybody else had to say about it, for, staying true to, I wish I remember who said it. I was just popping through stories one day, but somebody was asking on some red carpet interview, and what advice I think it was a musician. I wish I could quote her name, but someone was like, what advice would you give up and coming musicians? But this applies to everyone. And she said, fail faster. I was like, that is it, because the most successful people in the world have failed the most. They've failed the most. It's just the truth. We see overnight successes because we're on social media and we watch somebody pop off, but the truth is they've been showing up every day for a decade when it wasn't working, and then they were a quote overnight success. They failed, they kept going, they failed, and it's like, you want to get closer to the biggest version of your dream life, fail faster. And like,
Yes.
like that spoke to my soul every
I love
time,
that.
you like, and I always think of like, going back to content specifically, but we can again apply. I know not everyone's a content creator listening, but like, I think of like every time I post like a reel, I'm like, this is my entry into the lottery ticket. You never know which one's just going to go viral and change your life. You never know which day you're going to be the overnight success. So I'm never going to miss my chance to put in my lottery ticket, to buy my lottery ticket, so to speak. And that's what kind of keeps me going. I'm like, oh, I didn't win today, but maybe tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly. I love that. I love that. That's a great tip for everybody listening, and even myself, like to think of it as like this is your entry into the little lottery. It's so beautiful. And also it's like, especially if you are looking at people who have overnight success, and like if you look at their, failures, as you said, like fail faster, there's just so many attempts. And also sometimes we see people who they might seem like they didn't fail as much. They might seem like they kind of had a lucky break, like they knew somebody or had a connection, or maybe one of their videos like was they were brand new to a platform and immediately went viral. But the thing is, you cannot compare yourself to those people or their journey, because you don't know what's going to happen for them. Like, I wish them success. I wish everybody success, but you don't know what they're facing. You don't know if they're going to lose that momentum and then start questioning their worth. Like, all you can focus is on building your solid foundation, because the more solid you are in your own self-worth, your own self-concept, your own self-belief, the less it's going to matter, and the more potent and powerful you're going to be. So I love that idea. It's like putting it, like also removing the charge out of it, like putting a ticket, like a lottery ticket in or whatever. It's like, it just is, this is just what you do. And I think that a lot of people go through the ups and downs, but you have to remember, like, and this kind of goes back to what I said earlier. I think the way you start something is a big indicator of how it sustains. You have to build sustainably. And when we really want that kind of like quick fix, or like, I find myself when I'm like, oh man, I've been posting all these videos and I feel so good about them, they didn't go viral, but it's like, clearly something still needs healing in me to feel like that external metric is any indication of my worth whatsoever. And
Yeah.
so I'm just kind of like, it might even be one of these things where it's like, oh, okay, actually there's more for me to do. And it's, they say like, rejection is protection. Maybe the universe is like, not now, honey, because you got that one thing you got to take care of first. And then once you do, okay,
Yeah. I think all the time about, you know, like, yeah, there's still things I'm frustrated about now, but obviously I've come so far. I have my own business. I'm living as a nomad, living in Bali right now, like living a really like what once felt completely impossible dream. This what like when we first did Manifestation Babe Academy, like that was my last retail job, and I'm like, oh my God, since then, like I never went back to work full time. Like sometimes I did odd jobs to like get some extra, side income while I was building it. But like, Sadie, like you want to get frustrated, you want to feel discouraged, like girl, look around you, like how far you've come. Think of the girl that was at that retail store writing in her little manifestation journal about, oh, she's hopping planes once a month, going to new countries, working for herself, and I'm like, how dare you, first of all. But I do think on this journey, I can look back. Hindsight is always 2020. I can look back to when things didn't work out and go, oh my God, that felt so discouraging at the time, but I would have completely self-sabotaged that. No way I had the capacity for that at that time. I can look back with kinder eyes and more understanding eyes and go, oh my God, I in no way whatsoever did I have the capacity for that at that time. So the idea of rejection being protection, and it's just like, I talk a lot about an abundance mindset. It's like, if I'm like continuing to fail, then there must be a lesson, an opportunity, a redirection, a protection that's
ooh,
happening. And how do I come back to myself? Maybe I'm pursuing something that is close to what I truly want, but I'm compromising it in some way. I'm making it smaller in some way. I'm just slightly off course from where the universe really knows I'm meant to be. And they're like, babe, you're so close.
yeah,
But like, we need you over here, we need you 3 degrees to the left, like, or I guess I'm going to the right, whatever. So
over
I
this
love
way,
that.
just over there.
Yeah. We're
Oh
like, you're
my
so
gosh, that's
close, but you're dreaming bigger, but not quite big enough. We're not doing that. That's not what you really want. So we're not going to let you succeed at that, because then you're going to get too comfortable there. This is what you actually want over here that you're not allowing yourself to believe in yet. So that's not going to work out until you accept that this is where you're really going.
absolutely. And that you said that so beautifully. It's like you never know what you're being redirected towards, and like it could be that exact thing, like, you this is not what's meant for you, and you're also talking about how far you've come. That is something I feel like people constantly miss out on, is realizing how far they've come. Like,
Yeah.
they get so hyper fixated on all that they have yet to achieve and all that they want to do, and it's like you think about all you've done, and then they say, yeah, well, I wanted to do more by this age, or I wanted to do more, but
Yep.
it's like, you have to really give yourself some freaking grace, because if you put anyone else in your shoes from birth until now, going through what you did, when you did, how you did, they would be in the exact same position. So you
Mm-hmm.
cannot judge yourself for not doing better in the past with tools that you didn't have and knowledge you didn't know, you know? And so
Exactly.
I totally agree with you. It's like you acknowledging how far you've come. Like, a past version of me would have also been terrified to share things as vulnerably as I have publicly. And
Yeah.
and also, like, you're so right, we don't know, because if you look back at things in the past that you would hope work out, like, oh, I can't, like, a marriage to somebody that you've broken up with, you're
Yeah.
like, thank God
Thank
it didn't
God. That's
happen.
always my
Like,
example. I'm
oh
like,
my
you're gonna
gosh.
see this now and be like, that was lucky. You feel lucky at the
Yep.
time. It felt like the worst thing that could possibly happen. And then you're like, oh wait, no, I'm so glad that didn't work out. Oh God, that was so lucky that the universe yanked me out of that situation. Thank God.
And
Literally, thank
exactly. They literally, thank God. Like, thanks for looking out up there. But it's just like, it kind of almost comes back full circle to the law of polarity, and just like accepting and
Mm-hmm.
embracing what life is, because things that people look at as a success, like being an overnight sensation, can actually lead to someone's demise. Something that you look at as
Yeah.
a failure, like a breakup, could actually be the exact thing you need to catapult you into your highest version of yourself. Like, so,
Exactly.
you know, I think it's all about, it really comes down all to like soothing your nervous system, like healing your traumas, just constantly regulating and self-soothing, because the more solid foundation you have within yourself, the less the ups and the downs and the in-betweens are going to feel so like catastrophic. Or, and this is something also that I have to realize, is things don't feel so big. Like, yes, be excited about the highs, but the issue that I've experienced in the past is I get like, yes, oh my God, it's a high. So I feel the high of the high and then assign meaning to it. So when it's gone, like even if it's a plateau, I'm like, oh, failing, you know? So
Yep.
it's just kind of about realizing like it's going to be ups and downs and it's not wrong. Don't make yourself wrong for it. And you got to just keep showing up authentically. And
Yes.
as long as you're really doing so with intention, it's like you can't get it wrong. You really can't if you're being intentional.
Yeah. Your success is inevitable if you like stay consistent, you really follow your heart, you listen to your intuition. Like, I really truly believe it's impossible to fail. And like the journey is not always going to be rainbows and butterflies. Oh my gosh, it can be so hard, but like, I was talking about this in an IG live a few weeks ago, but this is such a good example of like in the well, there's the first there was the Matrix, right? Like, do you want the red pill or the blue pill? And then more Yeah. recently there's the Barbie movie where she's like, do you want the high heel or the like Birkenstock or whatever? And she's like, I want the high heel. She's like, I want to stay ignorant. I want to live my perfect life. But then by the end of the movie, she chooses to be a human, even though she knows she experienced how hard that was. She experienced the lows of that. To be human is really, really impossibly difficult sometimes, it feels like. But the sort of polarity of like, well, I can experience the ups and downs in life, or I don't know, I can have a boring life where I kind of go through the motions, where I don't follow the things in my heart. I know I have this potential in me. I know I have these desires, but I'm just going to ignore them forever. And on the
Right.
facade, look like, my life is like as it should be, even though on the inside, like I feel maybe nothing, right? And I think of that, like how in the beginning she was like, no, I don't want to go on that journey. And then at the end, she chooses to stay there, and she's like, oh my God, this is so rewarding. And so going after your dream, your desire, like there is going to be polarity in that journey. But to me, I'm like, oh my gosh, I would rather experience these ups and downs, the lowest lows, rather than be bored in a life that felt fucking mediocre to me. Like no
That's
mediocre
that's
shit in
the
my life. I'm
saddest.
not doing it.
That's the saddest thing of all. The mediocre. It's like when everybody's definition looks different, but like that is, I agree with you. That's the saddest reality of all of them, is knowing you didn't even try to live up to your
Yeah.
full potential.
It's like an extraordinary life is different to each of us, and that's all relative. And we don't have to get in our heads about like, is my version of an extraordinary life like too small, whatever. No, it's yours. It's like whatever that is. But like no more mediocre. We're rebelling against mediocre shit. We're not doing it. We're embracing. We're not numbing out to our feelings. We're not ignoring our hearts. We're going all in, regardless of what anyone else has to say about it.
There you go. I love it, sister friend. I completely agree. It's like, get out of here with that mediocrity bullshit. Like we don't, that's what we're conditioned to go for.
Yep.
And that's why people always associate it with being safe. But it's like, for me, that's the biggest danger of them all, is just knowing like I lived life in like a bubble and never really did anything like for myself, or like that was true to my heart. And it's like, I think especially for people who for people who aren't sure what they want, it's like the kind of risk there is taking actions to figure out what you want, like what you
Yeah.
love, what drives you, what lights you up. That's kind of the risk. And so sometimes we might want to avoid finding out what we want, or being honest with ourselves about what we want, because it's scary to be like, then what am I gonna, I can't go for it, or and that's because
Yeah.
we've been programmed and conditioned. And for people who do know what they want, who are like well aware, like, oh, I know I have had this vision in my heart, or I've developed it recently, or whatever it may be, like it can be, it feels like going for that is the scariest thing at first,
Yeah.
and it just,
Hmm.
every limiting, coming back to the external limitations, all the chatter, as you said, Sadie, so beautifully, but all the chatter is going to be like, oh, it's too risky. Oh, there's no money in that. Or, oh, are you sure? Or you need to settle down. Or, even people, I mean, even people who are in the life where it's like, I really just want to, I want to just be, not just be, I want to be, married with a family and have a beautiful home. That is freaking beautiful and extraordinary as well, if that's what you want. And sometimes I feel like those people are receiving the chatter of like, that's not enough. You should want more.
Yeah.
So it's like
Yeah.
there's always going to be that chatter that's trying to separate you from your ideal life, because the mediocrity is, that's what's safe. And that's what we're
Yeah.
conditioned to do, because again, that makes you more easily controlled.
No matter what our definition of an extraordinary life is, whether it actually does align pretty closely to what society sort of expects to us or not, there's always going to be someone with something to say about it, like
Yep.
no matter what. So once we can just accept that, there was a clip from Call Her Daddy that Alexandra Cooper just posted about how she's like, there are people in my DMs being like, oh, you think you're so cool that you don't care about your wedding? And she was like, right now I'm too chill. She's like, I'm so excited for my wedding. I can't wait for it. I care a lot, but I'm not stressed. But she's like, right now I'm too chill. But if I was a bridezilla, then everyone would be up in my DMs about how I'm a bridezilla and I care too much. She's like, you can't win as a woman. Like, if I want a house and babies and a husband, and I want, there's like the trad wife movement on TikTok, which I mean,
Yeah.
there's, controversy about that, whatever. But like, whatever you think about that. But there's a bunch of people who have a problem with them, who want the quote traditional life. They can't win. But then if you want to be a pop star, if you want to own your own business, if you want to write a book and you're like, this is going to be made into feature films, that's not okay either. So like, let's just all accept the fact that we can't win no matter what. And so it literally doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So we should just follow our goddamn hearts, because no matter what,
Yep.
somebody is going to have a problem.
Snaps, preach. Yes, absolutely agree with that. And there's always going to be the noise. And it's like, I mean, I do a lot of live streaming, and it's just like within any given day in a live stream, you're going to get very polarized hate comments too, like people saying like, oh, you should be more revealing, and people saying like, oh, you're putting yourself out there. And it's just like, exactly, you can't win. And it's like this song, Follow Your Arrow by Casey Musgraves. I don't know if you know it,
Yes,
but
one of my favorite songs.
yeah, she's like, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't, so you might as well just do whatever you want, and it's just
Yes.
so true. And that's why it's really important to just level your self-love game. Like, come down, and I know this is like, we're on self-love, love, compassion can be hard for people, but it's like, I mean, honey, at the end of the day, what kind of reality do you want? And I guarantee you it stems all from really ultimately loving yourself. And it might be hard
Yeah.
to do. And again, like, Sadie, you were saying earlier, it can come down to saying, I'm open to or willing to do this. But there's another awesome podcast host named Tam Core, who one of my best
Oh,
friends showed me. You know her?
self-obsessed.
Oh gosh, I took myself out on a date after listening, and it was like the most magical experience. Like the whole restaurant, pretty sure they thought I was a food critic at first because I was journaling instead of being on my phone. And so like
I
the
do that
chef and all the,
too.
yeah, did you do that also?
Yeah, that's actually how I met my boyfriend. He saw me like writing in a cafe, and it was so just like cute to him. He told me that before he walked to the cafe I was already sitting at. He was like, yeah, this thought in his mind. He's like, I just want to meet like a writer. And then he saw me writing, because I always take my journal to cafes, and I'll like sometimes it's a mocktail, sometimes it's a glass of wine, and I'll just like, vibe. And I love that. And that's something I used to be afraid of, like specifically going out deep by myself. And now it's my favorite thing ever. Oh my
Oh my,
gosh.
it was really scary for me because I've done a lot of things by myself, but go to a nice restaurant alone and say table for one, that was a first. And so
Yeah.
it was like I did face that like table for one kind of like uncomfortable, expansive action. And of course, the voices in my head were like, don't go. This is weird. Go home. They're going to be watching you. Like, what are they thinking?
Yep.
But I was just like, I was literally journaling out those thoughts in my head because she recommends like be present with yourself. Don't be on your phone. You wouldn't be like on a date. Well, if you would be, then you need some self-reflection. But
It's
you
not a
wouldn't be
great
on a
date.
date
Yeah.
like, yeah, not a great date. You wouldn't be on your phone the whole time during a date. So have a conversation with yourself, journal your thoughts. So like they just, I think, thought I was a food critic or something. So they're just sending everybody over and like checking on me. And someone finally gets the guts to say, what are you writing? And I was like, oh, I'm just journaling. He goes, oh, are you a writer? And I said, well, I'm a songwriter. He's like, oh, what, do you sing? And I was like, yeah. And he goes, can I hear your music? And I'm like, oh, sure. So I pull up my business card and I'm like, there's a QR code. And 2 minutes later, he comes back with his phone and another guy from the restaurant. Is this you? This is, oh my God. Like, getting like calling people over to listen to my music.
Yeah.
And they're like,
You
oh
got
my
new
God, we have
fans.
new fans.
Excellent.
And they gave me free dessert. And it was because I told them I was celebrating my upcoming release. And so I was like, see, this is just a testament to what can happen when you really show up for yourself. So it can be hard work, it can be scary work, but it's the most rewarding and important work to do is on
Yeah.
yourself. And I believe that's the key to a better world, like, is really being the best version of yourself,
Hmm.
because then you show up for the world in a more aligned, loving, and holistic way.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I love that, Tam's concept of being self-obsessed because we can think it's, that it kind of like the obsessed word, self-obsessed. Isn't that selfish? Isn't that being full of yourself? And it's like, well, if I'm obsessed with myself, I'm obsessed with being the best version of myself. I'm like truly deeply in love with myself. Doesn't that mean I'm going to show up for you? That's going to overflow into all the people around me, right? Like that's going to make me be a better person when I show up into the world. When I'm feeling myself, I'm like, oh my God, let me give an extravagant tip. Let me give random compliments to strangers. Like when I am like in a good, like the vortex, like Abraham Hicks says, like when I'm like in
Yeah.
those days where I'm just like vibing, feeling my best, like, yeah, I go out into the world and that like spills out of me in the most fun
Yep.
ways. And then you have interactions with people, right? And like all this little magic happens. And so it's like, I think the best thing we can do for our friends, our family, our coworkers, the world is be obsessed with ourselves. Like
Yes.
and be obsessed with being that best version of ourselves who's not listening to anybody else when it comes to the way we live our lives. So
Yep.
my final thing I want to ask you about, you're a mindfulness practitioner, and I loved that I've seen you post about. So my big thing is I'm always bugging everyone. I'm like, please, for the love of God, start a meditation practice. Like it will change
Yeah.
your life. I'm like, please. I'm like, I had so much resistance to it, but I just do it first thing in the morning before I'm even fully awake because then I don't have time to argue. Like my brain's not awake enough yet. But I know you've talked before about like how to meditate for people that like can't meditate or like think it's bullshit. Like I would love your perspective and like tips you have for listeners about meditation and any other mindfulness things you might want to pop into because we've talked a lot about like being true to ourselves, taking care of ourselves, loving ourselves. And I think meditation specifically is one of the most powerful ways to gain clarity on what our dream life is, get to know ourselves better, and be more grounded in who we are and the life we want to create. So I'd love to hear your take, your spiel. Give it to everybody about meditation. They're like, oh, again, Sadie's too obsessed
Yes.
with this.
I'll get on. Well, you can have down, sister. I'll get on the soapbox and give my spiel because I'm very passionate about it
Like, you
too.
won't
But
believe me. Just
yeah,
kidding.
well, I also think like we speaking to things that we've been told. Like I think we've really been just conditioned to not be present, to not sit with ourselves, not sit with our thoughts. And it's funny how, isn't it funny how a lot of the things that we're told, like stay busy or like, oh, don't be selfish and like don't be full of yourself when it's like being full of yourself means there's no room for anyone else to like fill you up with their
Yeah.
opinions. Like, all these
Oh,
things like,
yeah.
yeah. And it's so funny how we're told all these things, and it's like, aren't they all things though? If you really think about it, like loving yourself, or even like they're talking, princess treatment is a big buzzword or whatever, or like all these things
Yeah.
we're taught, like to receive a lot, to be full of yourself or self-obsessed. They're all things that really make us so confident and again harder to control. And so
Mm.
mindfulness, meditation, those practices are a really great way to just make sure you are so strong in yourself that you aren't being controlled by every and anything out there. You're shutting down the noise. And okay, I hear you. But Sadie, but Jess, my mind doesn't stop talking. Wait a second. Are you a human? Oh, okay, you're a human. See, I did, yeah, like, yeah, mine doesn't either. Neither does Cindy's, I'm sure. You have to train it.
No.
And then, even then, it's still going to come back. It is called a practice for a reason. I will use this analogy. You've
Mm-hmm.
probably used it too, but it's like going to a gym. You don't sit there and do a bicep curl and then walk out swole as fuck. You got to keep going, keep showing up and build it over time. It's the same with meditation. So stop
Mm-hmm.
acting like your first meditation needs to be like nirvana. You got to
Yeah.
just go in there expecting, okay, whatever happens, happens. And I really recommend to people start at 30 seconds. If you're like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
10 minutes, like, oh, 15 minutes, oh, 20 minutes, like, okay, 30 seconds, honey. You don't have 30 seconds, really.
Yep.
Start small and just build it 30 seconds. Do that for a while. Breathing, listening to music, then maybe a minute, then 2 minutes, and just slowly build. And you don't have to worry about your mind wandering off. It just takes time.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's about having grace and compassion and showing up. It's like you don't see your bicep growing from one curl or two curls or three curls. It's like
Yeah.
after the, 10th month or something, you're like, whoa, or I'm probably not 10th. You could
Yeah.
probably see results sooner than that. Anyway, the point
10
is,
weeks.
there you go, 10 weeks. It's just so much, it's just so much easier when you give yourself permission to start small in everything. So I recommend with meditation,
Exactly.
look up on YouTube 30-second, 1 minute, 2 minute, 5 minute. Look up for beginners, just research it. You'll be fine. You'll survive it. And even if you don't like it, there are other things you can try. I still really believe in meditation. I think we all can actually get there. But EFT tapping, for me,
Yep.
oh
Another
man, that's
favorite.
my go-to. And it's like, people are like, well, this looks kind of goofy. Tap on feels dumb, it doesn't work. It's like, in order to be your best self, you got to get over yourself too and quit acting like
Oh,
you're
yeah.
worried about looking foolish. So I
Yeah.
think trying EFT tapping is really helpful. Also, if you're like a little bit more uncomfortable with the meditation, because it's like you can say affirmations or say statements
Yeah.
out loud and tap your face, and then maybe try that and then do a 30-second meditation after that, because maybe by tapping on your face your body like this, you
It
might have actually soothed your nervous system enough to
exactly.
be
Yeah.
quiet for a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. I love all those tips. It really is just starting small. I mean, when I first started my meditation practice, I would set like a 3 minute timer. And I was like, if I can just sit here for 3 minutes, and I would literally just count my breaths. Like, I'd be like, one, two. And then I started saying like an affirmation with my breath, and it would be like 3 minute timer went off. Okay. Like I did it for today. Part of it too is just like, even if it's 5 minutes a day forever that you're doing this, part of it also is that like reward you get in your own mind of like, I did something for myself today. I did a good job today. If nothing else goes right, but you're like, but I did do my morning meditation. I did stick to my commitment on that for 5 minutes. I
Yeah.
feel like doing it first thing in the morning for me when I'm still sleepy. I mean, literally, our brains are still in like theta waves, so
Yeah.
that's where hypnosis happens. That's where our brains are
Mm-hmm.
most suggestible. So if you can like, I literally will just like scooch up in my bed sometimes when I'm really sleepy, and so I'm sitting up and I'll just turn on my little guided meditate. I love this Bob Proctor one right now. I've been doing it every day, and guess what? I know that meditation by heart. Sometimes I come out of it and I'm like, I don't remember this one section of it happening. My mind was wandering that whole time, but I still noticed the difference in my day to day. Even if I zoned out for more than half of it, going through the day, I'm like, yeah, I still feel better. One, that I just did it, and I'm still getting the benefits, even though I feel like I was distracted like most of the time. So even when it feels like it's not
Yeah.
working, like it is, like I always feel it. I'm not the world's best meditator. I'm just consistent at it, and so I think that's why I feel such a difference. But I would say most days I'm really distracted. Most days it is not
Yep.
nirvana.
Yeah. It's not
Most
like
days it
instant.
doesn't
You really, I'm
feel,
there. Yeah.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm
I
not
agree
like
with you.
visited powerfully by my spirit guides every single day, you know? I would love that feeling that I've tapped into on occasion, but like it's not that dramatic most days.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like I do have those very dramatic, profound, like conferences with my spirit guides and my team. Like that happens to me, and I like will go on these journeys and these visions, and like have this like great, profound wisdom downloaded, and I'll just feel so intuitively guided and led. And then other times, yeah, just like what you were saying, it's like, okay, well, I definitely tuned out for like a good solid chunk of that, but it's okay. We're coming back to reality, like Eminem status. But
Yes.
it's just like it's important. I agree with you 100% to do it first thing in the morning. I always do. It's my non-negotiable. I have my phone on do not disturb. I use my phone to find the meditation, but I have it on do not disturb so I don't look at my text. I don't look at
Yep,
my emails.
exactly.
And the few times, because I'm pretty disciplined in this now, practice. But the few times I've looked at my messages or emails before doing my mindfulness practice, I'm like, what the fuck did I do that for? And it just, the day was
Yeah.
affected by it. So I realized,
Yeah.
like you
Oh my
said, it
God,
doesn't
it's
have to be a perfect
huge.
meditation. Yeah, it doesn't have to be a perfect meditation. It doesn't have to be a perfect practice. The point is you did it, like you said, gold star, you set the intention, you showed up, and it, like you said, totally makes a difference overall. Just to be like, okay, I'm going to do this and then stick to it.
Yeah. I was just talking to one of my one-on-one clients where we're in the first couple weeks of us working together, and she's asking like, is all of the work we do, or is like all of the progress I'm going to make, is it all from my daily routine? Is it all from like meditating every day or the other things? Because I always ask my clients, I'm like, look, you'll get something out of this if you don't do this, but you'll get way more out of it if you meditate every day, even if it's 5 minutes a day. Like, please, like, just listen to me. And we were talking, and I came up with this metaphor, which I feel like is like so spot on. Like, we we don't question ourselves like waking up and like brushing our teeth, right? Like that's not something where we have to have this, oh, I'll put it, no, I'll do it tomorrow, I don't have enough time today, right? Like we wake up and we brush our teeth. That's just sort of like a given. And because we brush our teeth every day, then when we go to the dentist every 6 months or so, the dentist has an easier time getting in there and doing the deep cleaning and whatever. If we were to not brush our teeth in between our dentist visits, those dentist visits would be much messier and take much longer and not go great, right? And so,
And involve removing cavities and
yes.
yeah.
And so I think
And
about, okay, you want to do the bigger work, right? Maybe you want to um, do some really deep shadow work, or maybe you go to your therapist every week. So it's not like literally every 6 months. Maybe you want to go to a hypnotherapist. Maybe you want to, I'm I run programs where we're dedicating a certain amount of time to a really specific thing in our life that we're going to transform. And so it's like when you go into the deeper work, whether it's with your therapist, a hypnotherapist, on your own doing shadow work, the brushing your teeth every day, the meditation you do every day is going to make that work so much more
oof,
efficient, work so much faster, be so much more powerful. And so I think this helps me keep going because I'm like, well, and I focus my deeper work around like the new and full moon mostly. And I'm like, all right, well, when I take that extra time those days, that work's going to be so much more amplified and more efficient and more powerful.
mm,
And the more I do this work and the longer I've been in my meditation practice, I'm like, oh, I can clear stuff so much faster. I'm so much more self-aware, right? And so that was my example of like, if you're doing the deep inner work, but you're not doing, it doesn't I think it should be meditation. I hate saying should, but I think it should be. But
Yeah.
tapping every day, whatever, if you're not doing some sort of mindfulness practice every day, that deeper inner work that you do on occasion, it's going to help you. But you could amplify those results tenfold, 100-fold, 1,000-fold if you did your mind brushing, brushing
Yes,
teeth.
I love that. I love that analogy. I'll have to borrow that because it's like
Yes, please.
it's so true. It's like you got to stay and make it a habit, really. Like
Yeah,
the brushing the teeth is so normal because we've made it a habit, and that's what it sounds like you've done, and I know what I've done with our
exactly. Yeah.
meditation practice. It's just a non-negotiable. It's a habit. I wake
Yeah,
up
I
and
don't
I do
question
it.
it anymore. Yeah.
Exactly. And so it's just like getting to that. And actually, speaking of brushing teeth related to morning practice, I've switched hands. I'm now brushing with my left hand instead of my right hand for the benefit. And now it has become a habit. I grab my toothbrush because I've been doing it for like 2 months now, maybe more. I now grab my toothbrush with my left hand instead of my right. So it's like if I can brush my teeth with my left hand instead of my right, I promise everybody listening right now, you can make like a 1-2 minute meditation for yourself a habit. And then once you make that a habit, you can up it, or you can up it even further and beyond that before you get there to the habit status. But it can happen. It's just as a matter of, are you willing to do the things that are maybe challenging or uncomfortable in the way of like expansive uncomfortable action? Like, are you willing to do it? Because if not, then it's gonna be such a long road for you. You just
Hmm.
really have to fail faster, fail at meditation faster, right? Like,
Yeah,
there you go.
yeah. I mean, it doesn't sound very sexy, but our entire lives are just a series of habits because we run on this subconscious programming. Like, happiness is a habit, complaining is a habit,
Oh my
optimism
gosh,
is a
yeah.
habit, pessimism is a habit, everything is a habit. And, like, at first, it's hard to create a new habit, to meditate, to stop complaining, to whatever, X, Y, and Z. But then it becomes subconscious and we no longer have those little arguments in our head. Will I, won't I do it today? Um, compromising with ourselves, all these things like that stuff slowly fades away with any habit. Like I was just recording for Abundance Alchemy, my current program in my membership, and I was saying like, think about like when we learned to drive a car, how like we were so aware, we were like calculating like, do I start pressing the brake now? How fast do I press it down? Oh, I haven't checked my mirrors in a while. We had to really do all of these things like very intentionally. And now when we drive, it's like I don't think about like, oh, I better glance into my rear view mirror. I just look up there every once in a while. I don't
Yep.
consciously think I better start braking now because there's a stop sign. Oh wait, no, maybe I should wait a little bit. I hit, like it just, my foot just goes down when I see a stop sign. There's no intentionality anymore. It's just a program that runs. And
Yep.
so everything in our life is like that. And that's like, that can work for us or against us. And the trick is just, I always like to say brainwashing. I think it sounds fun. Like we're like little like evil villains brainwashing
Yeah.
ourselves
It
to
is.
be
You're
happier and live more
rewiring your
fulfilling
brain. Yeah.
lives.
It truly is. You are rewiring your brain. You are brainwashing yourself. And it's like, look, you're brainwashed in any capacity. Like some program is running. You might as well be the one choosing what it is, you know? So
Exactly.
it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, I love that. It is like driving, and it's like, even with walking, like we don't remember most likely what it was like to walk, for the first
Yeah.
time, but it's like, we have to get up and fall so many times. I love when
Oh my God,
Abraham,
babies, they
yeah,
look all
I
like
love
drunk
it when
and like,
yeah, they look drunk. And Abraham Hicks says, "You don't look at a baby trying to walk and go, 'Get up, you little dummy.' Like you are like giving the baby a hard time. Like you're not like, 'Come on, what are you doing, falling down? Jeez, you don't know how to
hey,
walk already?'"
stupid.
And that's what it's like. Exactly. And I was like, that's what it's like in life. I was just having this conversation today with my mom. I'm like, in life, there are going to be times where I probably fall down. I know, for parents, a lot of times, or, caretakers or caregivers or guardians, it's really hard to see someone that you love so much going through challenges and having a hard time or hurting.
Yeah.
But you have to remember, this is them now as an adult doing what they did as a baby, which is getting up,
Yeah.
trying to walk, and falling down. And that is their journey. They have to do it. You have to let them experience their things. And of course, lovingly support them. And if you got to say something, but you've got to just be prepared. Like, they're going to get up and they're going to fall, and eventually they will walk.
We're all just baby girls figuring out how to live a more fulfilling life. I love that. I'm just a baby girl. I'm still figuring it out.
I'm a lover girl. I'm a baby girl.
Compassion. I'm just a little baby girl.
Little baby girl, it's me.
2-year-old baby girl. How was I supposed to know?
32-year-old baby girl trying to walk, and just like on my little Tonka tyke, over here, playing with my little baby dolls and being a baby girl.
Yeah, just a little baby girl trying to figure out how to meditate and grow in my life. That's great. We're all just baby girls, and we're gonna give ourselves compassion.
The new trend, like we've gone from like it's no longer like Delulu or princess treatment. It's baby girl.
Just a baby girl.
Baby girl. That's me.
I got distracted in my meditation today, but that's okay. I'm just a baby girl. I'm figuring it out. I'm learning.
Actually, that's beautiful. I think this is something that we should definitely unlike fetch, we should definitely try to make this a thing, because I think that having that compassion for yourself and seeing yourself as a child really prevents you from going in as hard on yourself as you normally would with the like negative self-talk. So baby girl, like hashtag baby girl, let's go.
We're rebranding inner child work. We're baby girls. And the men are baby girls too. I don't make the rules. That just feels right.
Yeah. I'm here for it.
It's
a thing. It is. It is.
Oh my gosh.
So it is.
And so it is. Oh my gosh. Jessica, thank you so much. This was such a good conversation. We've talked for so long. I could talk to you forever. We'll have to have a part 2 at some point. But before we hop off, I just want to thank you for sharing so much wisdom, so much of your story, so much of your inspiration, and let our listeners know where they can find you, ways they can connect with you.
I thank you, Sadie, for having me on. I'm super honored to be the first guest. Like, seriously, a huge honor. I would love to come back anytime. And also, it's just like so beautiful to see you like shining and like leading by example in this podcast. There's so many juicy things I know that are coming. So it's very cool for me to be a part of it in any way. So thank you for having me. And if you want to find me on the social medias, I'm at the Jessica Mar. Look, I literally have this for my stream. How obnoxious is this? But it's this is this is it. So it's my new song. Somebody Jessica Mar at. Yeah, I'm at the. If you're listening and can't see the obnoxious sign I just held up, it's at the Jessica Mar on all platforms, or just jessicamar.com. And that's where, if you join my email list, you can stay up to date on all of the new song releases and learn about how to join my membership, Mindful Music Monday, where we do cool mindfulness practices every week. Started off that way, and that is pretty much essentially where you're going to find your baby girl.
That's where we're going to find baby girl Jessica. I'll make sure her links are in the show notes. And thank you so much. See you next week, Rebels.